Oh, didn't see you there. But now that you're here, you're probably wondering, why am I standing in a dilapidated garage workshop? And more importantly, why did I spend $750,000 to buy it in the first place? Well, to put it politely, it's expensive. But long story long, this property comes with a lot of land in a very expensive city, with a few different buildings, including this train wreck over here. And I understand your skepticism of having me turn this into a state-of-the-art woodworking workshop. But don't you worry, my sweet, sweet, simple child. I'm going to show you that you don't need new build to make all of your dreams come true. And even though I've been dealt a really bad hand with this building, like I'm talking a really, really bad hand, like a 2-7 offsuit, I hope it inspires confidence in whatever you have, whatever you can afford, or whatever you can find. So let's cut to an overview of the project and all the costs associated with it, mainly because I'm tired of carrying this heavy freaking stump around. So let's make like a bald eagle's monocle and get a bird's eye view. Take it away, Jim. Take it away, Jim. Jim? Who's Jim? I'm literally you. Now in this aerial shot, you can get a good appreciation for my derelict domicile in all of its glory, and we will now dive deeper into the 4 different compartments that we will repair or replace. But since I'm a fancy YouTuber with a big budget, and most certainly not a one-man show, my 3D animator is going to render a better graphic for us to explore. Take it away, Steve. Unfucking real. Come on, man. Not in front of people. Thank you. So as I was saying, this is a great way to visualize the 4 different compartments of the garage workshop. In compartment 1 on the left, we have a small storage that has been used by the same tenant for the last 31 years, and I'm not going to take it away from him because that'd be rude. My mama did raise me better than that. But I will upgrade it for him just because. Next, in compartment 2, we have a garage bay that'll be my woodworking workshop, and you're probably wondering if I'm super passionate about woodworking and if I have a lot of experience, and the answer is no. But we're going to find out if I like it or not, because I'm building a workshop there anyways. Next to compartment 3 will be a storage and supply depot, since I have quite a few rentals within a 10-mile radius of this location. For those of you interested in real estate, you'll have a lot of spare parts and tools after each project that you'll want to reuse for later. You also want to store things like spare shingles and flooring and paint, so you don't have to run around town like a banshee when it comes time to repair or refresh the rental. Lastly, and also leastly, is a plastic storage bin. There should never be anything up against the structure, and this is a prime example. We have huge blackberry bushes growing in between the building and the storage, not to mention the plastic bin leaks and causes other problems. I'll have to remove the storage unit and build a better, more permanent solution off-site. Those together, the 4 different compartments, but there's way more than meets the eye, as this structure has a lot of problems. Let's dive deeper into the issues, identify the biggest cost drivers, and give a dollar estimate to how much dinero it'll take to revive this beauty. At the top, we have arguably one of the more expensive and more important items to replace: the roof. As you can see, to maintain my roof in its current state, I need to get my lawnmower up there, which is not exactly safe carrying up a ladder. It's such a shame because it's not a super old roof, but the previous owner had someone pressure wash it at some point, causing a loss of granules. If you're ever looking to buy a house, you can tell when this occurs because a regular old roof will have an even loss of granules across the surface, while a pressure washed roof will show sporadic loss of granules that are based on where the pressure washer held the hose too long. You can also tell by the way that it is. In total, we have about 500 square feet here, or about 5 roofing squares, and I'll probably need around 600 square feet of shingles just for waste and future repairs. I'm also a big fan of ridge vents. They're more expensive but also way more efficient. With underlayment and flashing, I'd estimate a solid 2,000 smackaroos. Moving on to gutters and drainage, most people don't talk about it because it's not cool or hip, as the young kids like to say. But once you have a downspout overflowing back into your garage, you'll want to address this sooner than later. I used to get my gutters at $4 per linear foot pre-COVID, so I'm bumping that up to $7 per linear foot now, because, you know, inflation. Also adding 4 new downspouts, and I may need to lay some additional drainage towards the back. I'm estimating this will run me a total of $600. In the front, we have the garage doors, which are important for 2 reasons. The first of which being they comprise most of the curb appeal to any residential structure, and this workshop is no different. From afar, they look like absolute booty, but actually, when you get up close, they look even worse. Yeah, these garage doors have had a rough life. There's no way to sugarcoat it. They're rotting from the ground up, and while curb appeal is one of the 2 important items, the second one is security. And I'm no Paul Blart Mall cop, but if you can see daylight coming through, probably not ideal. Both doors are 8x7s, and for non-insulated, it's about $1,200 for 2 of them. I may get an installation kit at a later date, but that's TBD. I'd also like wall-mounted door openers just to help with the overhead storage space, but I can't really justify the cost, so I'll go with 2 ceiling-mounted ones instead. When you add on lock kits and refresh the seals and trims, it's estimating it'll run me about 1,750 clams. I won't tackle this first since it's not urgent, so as long as I don't pick at it. Hey, stop that. Here we have the siding, another big ticket item, and you can see it's in really rough shape, especially the southern side, which has the sun beating down on it like it owes it money. You can see it hasn't been painted in years, the knots are coming out, and with a little bit of elbow grease, you can actually pull the panels directly off the framing. Now, I'm no structural engineer, but I suspect it's because the previous owner used these nails that rusted in place versus, oh, I don't know, something that wouldn't rust. So when it comes to situations like this, it's easy to be quick to judge, but I always give the person the benefit of the doubt put myself in the previous owner's shoes and understand why he did what he did. Hello, my name is the previous owner, and I'm excited to buy the last thing I need, some galvanized siding nails. Interesting choice. I see you have the correct nails that will not rust. But I do have these cheaper nails right here that will rust, and they'll barely hold the siding onto the wall. But they are a few cents cheaper. Seems like a very nominal amount compared to how much time and effort and money I'm putting into the other sides of the project. Can you help me understand how it's going to impact the guy that buys the house next? Oh, he's going to freaking hate you. Sold. His next of kin is going to curse your name. I fully understand. No, I don't think I made myself clear. I don't think you understand. This rusty nail option, that's the inferior of the two, I would actually pay you more. In fact, I'm going to pay you more for it. On three? On three. Fuck the next guy. Oh, son of a bitch. I'm fine. I've calmed down, I swear. I'm fine. So as I was saying, benefit of the doubt. Now this siding's going to be a real doozy to replace, not to mention the fascia boards and corner posts also have some serious rot going on. I suppose the silver lining is the rusty nails will make demo that much easier. And I've done my fair share of siding before, mostly T111 or fiber cement, so I'm curious to try out vinyl siding on the structure, mainly because of the low upkeep. For the project, one roll of housing wrap should do. OSB sheathing's kind of hard to predict because the prices fluctuate so much. Let's say 25 bucks a sheet. Ring shanks come in at $3,000 a pack, so that should be plenty. I also love to use Trex fascia boards for low upkeep, but it's really cost prohibitive, so I'll probably go with wood. The vinyl siding at the low end is about $2.50 a square foot, and the J channels, corner posts, and other vinyl mounting blocks are really hard for me to predict since I haven't done them before, so let's say $400. In total, to replace the siding, I'm going to estimate about 3,500 shekels. And much like the garage doors, it's not super urgent. I think it'll last a few more months as long as I don't pick at it. Hey, stop that. Now landscaping is one of the more urgent matters since it's growing up and over the garage, which means I can't get access to the window, the roof, or the siding for replacement. I also can't wire the electrical outlets in the backside, so I'll tackle this first. There's also a decrepit dog kennel in the back, which belongs to an 81-year-old tenant. He informed me that he can't take it down, so I let him know that I'll help him out. After all, the ceiling is way past its prime. We don't want the ceiling collapsing unexpectedly on any pets. Now the yard almost has every invasive species you can think of. It has blackberry bushes, cottonwood trees, English ivy, Japanese knotweed, black locust trees, you name it, except for bamboo. I got it. In terms of the biggest cost drivers, I actually own a really nice weed whacker, and I'm also going to borrow my dad's chainsaw without asking him and having no intention of returning it, which is going to really help keep the overhead low. I'll probably have to buy some metal weed whacker blades for the juiced up blackberry bushes out back and a new chainsaw chain for fallen trees. With that said, I'm also going to compost the trimmings in my own yard, bringing the total estimate for landscaping down to a very frugal 100 Washingtons. Sandwiched between the seemingly haunted dog kennel and the building is a massive window. This structure is about 7 years old, and it seems that this window may be an original. It's a single pane aluminum window, also held together by rusted nails. And it's one piece, that 2x4 in the middle, is actually an internal wall that appears to have been built at a later date. Speaking of which, let's head inside the garage and take a look from the inside. From the inside, you can see that there was some sort of privacy film on it before, which is now gone, leaving this unsightly residue. This window also leaves me desiring for more security, and I estimate to replace this behemoth with 2 vinyl windows, trim, foam insulation, and rubberized flashing, I'll have to make it rain a solid 600 greenbacks. Out of everything we talked about, the electrical system was the most shockingly bad. I know, my bad. I just couldn't resist her. But on a serious note, the garage was actually bumming electricity off a different panel in a separate building, and the garage had a single underground feeder wire going into a single junction box. The junction box then split the wire into 2 12x2 Romexes. It would then exit the tenant storage via a hole in the first garage bay, where both wires would hug along the rafters and make their way to the front, where they would power a single light switch in each bay and a single light. It technically works, but it's really not all peaches and cream. For starters, you can see the junction box as a whole, which isn't code. The wires are also stapled to the face of the stud and not on the side, which is another code violation. And to make things even worse, the underground feeder wire should be at least 2 feet deep underground. But we found it was basically sitting on the surface waiting for an unsuspecting shovel to come along. When I looked at where the wire surfaced, it was sitting in a literal pool of water. This doesn't really matter since UF wire can be direct buried, but I want to run 240 volt in a PVC conduit so I can power my bigger tools. Now wire is quite pricey. I'll need some 12.3 Romex for the bigger power tools at 240 volt. I'll need some 12.2 Romex for all the 20 amp outlets, and I'll use some 14.2 wire for the less power hungry applications like the interior and exterior lights. I'm also going to run a legit junction box with GFCI breakers since garages are technically a wet area. Adding some more interior and exterior lighting will cost a pretty penny, and I'll also need some 20 amp tamper resistant outlets as required in my area, which puts each receptacle at about $10 a pop. And yes, you are seeing that right, I'm adding a whopping 30 outlets. In total, I'll round up even more than what I'm seeing on the screen, and I'm going to say that this is going to run me about 2,000 big ones. The walls are yet another good example of not judging a book by its cover. They look fine from afar, but when you get up close, it's straight out of a nightmare. The walls are dirty and greasy, the felt paper starting to decay, and there are huge gaps in the shiplap that let lots of little insects into the building. It's not all bad though, because it helped me make a new friend named Alabaster. Now Alabaster scares the shit out of me. Not only is he a massive spider, but he's also quick, as this is the real-time speed. The primitive monkey part of my brain kind of wants to kill my friend Alabaster, not gonna lie, but we'll find him a home and resist any premeditated arachnicide. Now I'm gonna go overboard and foam everything in the garage to make sure Alabaster and his buddies can't get back in. I'm also gonna R13 the walls at first, but this price does not include the ceiling, which is arguably the most important place to insulate. I'll probably do it at a later date. I also found some fire code drywall from the previous owner that I used in between the two garage bays to slow down any fires, and the green board is for the storage side since it's a bit more expensive drywall, but it's also a bit more mold resistant. I'm going to OSB the woodworking workshop side to allow me to hang tools anywhere, and it's just also kind of a cool look. Then I'll also paint this place with polyvinyl acetate or PVA, which is a primer. There's really no need to break out the Bob Ross paint set for this one. And for that reason, I'm estimating that the walls will cost me $1,500 bills. But before I go out there swinging a sledgehammer in the name of renovation, let's hit pause and recap what it'll cost to turn this into my garage mahal. Hashtag garage mahal. Now first up is landscaping, and I'll tackle this in the next episode since the dog kennel is collapsing and plants are growing up and over the workshop. For electrical, if you're paying attention to that slide, the math just ain't mathin'. And during the time of filming, the prices of Romex were incredibly variable, if you can even get your hands on them. I purposefully overestimated this section by quite a bit in anticipation of that, as well as other plugs and items that were too tedious to list out during the entire estimation process. For windows, should be pretty straightforward, and $600 should be enough. Now the roof ain't gonna be cheap, and it also ain't a one-man job, especially if you work full-time like me on the other side. I'm gonna tackle as much as possible, but I may also call in reinforcements. When I do this, I'll have roofers close by in different project house just in case I gotta get bailed out. It's also important to use a reputable roofer that has a multi-year warranty, but it's even more important to recognize your own limitations, because if you stop midway through a project and a contractor realizes this, the sky is gonna be the limit, but only in terms of pricing. Now walls was another slide where the math just ain't mathin', and that was on purpose for a very similar reason to electrical. The price of OSB is fluctuating heavily, and there's a lot of little items that I didn't want to painstakingly write out in a high-level estimate. In terms of the cost for gutters and drainage, this one could go south, but it really depends on what I'm dealing with in the ground. In all honesty, I like to clear out the existing drain lines and create a rainwater collection system, since I'm a huge Japanese maple nerd, and I'd like to start cultivating trees back there for transplant into my future primary residence. Now garage doors are a bit tricky, and I've done a few garage doors in my day, but they're pretty suspect, especially those springs that can unalive you pretty quickly. So I may farm it out to my guy David, but I also may tackle it myself, and the price that you're seeing is just for me installing them personally. Siding is last but not least. It's the big kahuna in terms of cost and time. Never done vinyl siding before, so my estimate might be off. I also didn't measure any of the walls, so my square footage estimate may also come back to haunt me, as I was just eyeballing it. But in total, we're looking at $12,050, but since we're realistic folk on this channel, we're going to multiply that by 1.2, because no matter how hard you try, you're probably going to go over by at least 20%. And that brings us to a final cost estimate of $14,460. Holy shit. Okay, now that we've officially secured our funds, we can resume our efforts to put lipstick on this pig. Leave a comment if you have experience and you think any of my estimates are way off. Bonus points if you're nice about it. Before we get there, there's something really important that I need to get off my chest. So I have a confession to make. I'm not actually a tradesman. That's right, I don't work in construction, and if you want to watch a master craftsman expert do the same thing repetitively over and over and over again, this probably ain't the right channel for you. But if your attention is as bad as mine is, most likely because social media has fried the reward center of our brain, and every time we swipe, it's a release of dopamine, just like pulling the lever on a metaphorical slot machine. You never know what you're going to get. And back when we had commercials that were 30 seconds on cable television, they put them in 2-minute and 30-second interval chunks. But now basically if there's a 5-second YouTube ad with the option to skip at 3 seconds, your finger's hovering over that. And that same 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you can go through a wide range of emotions, from laughing, from crying, to feeling inspired. And our brains just probably weren't meant to handle that. And you can see the result as the need for me to switch from cam B to cam A to cam B again. Just keep your attention. Then you're probably in the right place. And while our experience would be more similar than to that of a master craftsman or tradesman, I do have some experience renovating dozens of houses of my own. Roll the montage. Love a good montage. So while I do have some experiences, I will always include my mistakes in the videos, things to watch out for. And with that, I don't really know how to end a video since this is my first one on YouTube, but I think the best possible solution to go forward would be to end it pretty abrupt.